Hi, Miss Adler. Please introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Dominique Butler. I've been a special education teacher since 1997. I graduated college that year with a degree in psychology, a bachelor's. And my classroom at the time, I was a pre-K teacher at the University of Texas Callier Preschool, which is next door to the Center for Communication Disorders. So my classroom became a research classroom for children with autism and how to include them with other children. So my students were about 3 and 4 years old, and that's when I decided to continue my career in special education. And I pursued a master's degree at the University of Miami and started working for Dade County Public Schools in 2000. So I went from college to the University of Texas, Callier Preschool. Then I went to the Debbie School for University of Miami, and then Miami-Dade County Public Schools, where I stayed for 17 years until I met Matthew. Matthew and his
Yes.
friends.
Well, talking about Matthew, yeah, I moved to Miami in 2014. Um, what do you remember about Matthew and Jesse? No? Because Jesse have autism too.
So I opened up the autism unit at Sylvania Heights, and after doing 13 years at Howard Drive Elementary, working in the emotional behavioral disabilities program. And everybody had told me it was the same thing, but I quickly found out it is not the same thing. So Matthew bit me the second day of work, and I was very surprised. Um, and he had a lot of behaviors, 14 times a day, probably eloping, running out the door, tantrums. It was so difficult to get him to school. He was wearing a bus harness, then he wouldn't let the bus pick him up anymore. You had to bring him with help. It was like WrestleMania every morning to get him through the doors. And now, fast forward, and we started homeschooling him in third grade. He spent about 3 years before COVID pretty much at home in isolation with just the family. I mean, not complete isolation, but after COVID, he started socializing and he wanted friends and he wanted to go to school. And we were blessed that another family has Romy's World PPEC and had let us use their van and use their facilities to recover from COVID. We were also blessed that Math Monkey before COVID had let us use their location to homeschool these youngsters. Before Math Monkey was Shine Bright Therapy, we had used their location. So the transition from school, Dade County Public Schools, started with Matthew. He was the first one to homeschool. I left in 2017, and Matthew was followed by 3 of his classmates. So we all left together, and we started a tiny homeschool program that has since grown. And Matthew is a completely different person now. Completely. He loves to come to school. He loves his friends. He's so happy every day to go on field trips when we go on field trips. I don't think I ever imagined that we would go from the little boy who was biting me and running out the door to a child that I'm like, okay, let's go take the train downtown and go see a museum, or let's go to the grocery store and find some groceries. And homeschooling has allowed us to do all of those things, that we can get out in the community. We have very impromptu field trips. It's like, okay, wait, you guys did your work. Let's go somewhere. Let's go do something.
Yeah. When somebody asks you, because this happened to me a lot with Jesse and Matthew. Sometimes people say, "Oh, your daughter don't have autism. She don't look like he don't have to look. She's autistic. Uh, Everybody say, but she has a little or Matthew severe autism. It's different, but she's still autistic. Now she's in FIU, she's working, she drives her car, she do everything, whatever she wants, and is so independent. And people think that because of that, she's maybe not autistic. And about Matthew, when I talk about Matthew, uh, you knew Matthew, the bad, terrible times that we had with him. And the therapists in Arizona, they know how was Jesse and Matthew, how hard it was for us. And sometimes I talk about Matthew in the past, years ago, and nobody can believe. So I had to show videos, I had to show pictures or whatever. Do you remember how many times the school report Matthew because hitting, biting, trying to escape? I remember I received a letter from the principal from school about Matthew trying to escape 14 times in one day. Everybody was running and trying to catch him, and reports about hitting or biting you. I remember that Matthew in the hospital. I remember, oh my gosh, we had to take him like this because he wanna hit everybody. And now when I talk about him, I remember nobody believed that Matthew read and talk.
Right.
And one day, you told me to introduce him to the regular classroom.
Mm-hmm.
That was in the IEP program. And one time you took him to the regular classroom, and the teacher was teaching Spanish, right? And Matthew started reading in Spanish, and everybody was saying, "What?"
Yeah.
And what you can say about that?
I mean, autism is a spectrum, and it's a communication disorder. So it's very difficult to see what a child has to offer when we're not communicating using their language. So when we have kids like Matthew, we have to learn their language and we have to figure out how they communicate the best. And with Matthew, it's through art. So here we do art every day. So Matthew draws every day. He also likes to use the iPad to communicate. So we let him use an iPad when he wants to communicate through the iPad. He definitely can do so much more than people would believe because he doesn't communicate the same way everybody else communicates. So when you have children with autism that have such a hard time communicating the way we communicate, people just assume that they don't know things. And that's not always the case. We have nonverbal kids who are extremely intelligent.
Good job.
Thank you,
Good
Jacob.
job.
Thank you. Close the door.
Iron lunch. Bird farts in a hiccup.
That was Jacob, not his friend. Oh my god. Somebody was called. Okay, so one when people say your daughter she got little autism and your son severe, what do you think about? Sometimes I say nobody knows what I live with my daughter. How hard was that?
Right.
And I think when people say she have a little, they are not thinking about she's autistic and maybe right now she's good, she's doing everything good, but maybe tomorrow everything change again.
So that's, I think, now people refer to kids as needing the most amount of support or less support. So, which is good because, again, we don't know how high a child can function till we provide the right tools for them to function. So in her case, she doesn't need as much support to be independent, but that doesn't mean she doesn't need any support. And the word independent can mean so many different things for so many different people. So living an independent life doesn't mean you have to live alone, and it doesn't mean you have to live without any type of support. I mean, we all need our support systems in order to live. So they might need a different type of support system. So she's independent in college, but she might need a different type of support in college so that the people who are around her understand that sometimes she'll have a bad day, and that's okay. She just needs a certain type of support when that happens. Versus Matthew, who needs a lot more support. And his level of independence will be different. But that doesn't mean his quality of life has to be bad. You can still have a good quality of life with the right types of support. And I think that's what we need to focus on, is that these kids are growing up to be happy, productive individuals that in their own way, that are contributing to the world, like Matthew, in his own way. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be Ivy League. So I think for a lot of parents, when their kids get diagnosed, there's has to come a shift in perspective that, the important things in life now are having a child who's happy.
Yes. Yeah, when Matthew was and Jesse were little, uh, some people asked me, what language do you want they talk? English or Spanish? And I said, I don't care. I don't care which one. I just want they talk.
Yeah.
And start communicating. And one question. What do you think about me?
I mean, I think you've come a long way. Like from the mom that I met years ago to the mom you are now, you've come a long way. And we've talked a lot, throughout the years, because there's another thing. So you had a teenage daughter, and I had already raised 2 teenage daughters. So sometimes it's like, oh my goodness, she's doing this. And you're like, yeah, that's what teenage girls do. And that's okay. That's not autism. That's it's hard for all of us. So, it's a whole, and I do believe that's another balancing act of deciding like how much of this is part of autism and how much of this is just growing up, because we can't skip the stages. So even though kids with hormones it's difficult for everybody, and then of course these kids are dealing with hormones the same way as everybody else, but without the ability to communicate what they're feeling the same way as everybody else. So it's a whole other level of difficulty, but it's still the teenage years.
Yeah.
So as a mom, I think you've come a long way. Jesse's doing fantastic. Matthew is absolutely amazing. It just blows me away. Every time I just, hey Matthew, can we go get this for me or help me with that? And he's comes running and he's happy.
Yeah, that's the
He's
important
happy.
thing for me.
And that's what makes this all worth it.
Yeah.
Because I can see the difference. And then when I have younger students now and the parents tell me, oh, we're dealing with this and we're dealing with that, I can be like, oh yeah, I remember when we did that. Like, and guess what? There is a light at the end of the tunnel because I've already seen it. I know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel because I've already seen it.
Yeah.
So.
Do you think I do everything possible to help my kids, or I remember in the school they don't want to see me again because I was fighting for everything, and I think everywhere trying to find the attention, the good health, the quality life and space and safe space for my kids. And um, I remember one day I was in the street up to Matthew when he started running in the school, in front of the school, and the security, the police, everybody saw me trying to hold Matthew, and nobody helped. No one do anything, and that was every day, trying to calm Matthew. And I make I write a letter and I go to the police station and I say, and in the letter, uh, I'm a mother of two autistic children. Please, if you saw me having a problem or something in the street, help me, because they didn't do anything.
And that's, I mean, where awareness and acceptance comes in, because a lot of parents end up feeling very judged when their children misbehave in public, they have a tantrum, they're overwhelmed by sensory issues, and people really don't know how to help. They don't know what's going on, they don't know what to do,
They can
because
start asking maybe.
yes, I
They
mean,
can start asking.
do
Because
you
a
need
lot of people
help?
looking and talking, and they don't do anything. I was, my gosh, crying and everything because my son was hurting him. He was fighting with me, hitting me, and nobody did anything. That was too hard
Yeah.
for me. And sometimes I say, uh, to find the help from the state and everything, we have to do a lot of things every 6 months, renovation of this, of that. And that's so stress. And sometimes I say, my gosh, I have to do something for us,
Mm-hmm.
mother and father, because nobody care about us. Nobody think about how hard it is for us. And I don't know what to do.
Right. And that was part of my dream in turning in having the learning oasis and creating a community. Because honestly, I couldn't do this without the help of the parents. And I try to be as supportive as I can for my parents too, so that, because I know you guys don't get a break. And when your kids come here, that's a break. It's a small break,
Yeah.
but it's something where, the biggest compliment to me is that you trust me every day with your child. And every day year round.
Oh, yeah. When I pass away, please. I'm sure you're going to take my son.
I mean, and
Yeah.
that's the goal, was to create a community where we can all support each other, because it is so hard.
But you know what? Social media sometimes is too hard. It's terrible. Uh, just on my social media, I like to post smiling and is looking happy.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but sometimes I'm not happy, and people judge me a
Mm-hmm.
lot. And I try to not to listen or pay attention to that, but it's it's hard. And I was always trying to help people with autism, not only here in my country too. And I want to do a lot of things, but always something happened to stop that. And I say, oh my gosh, I'm just trying to help.
Right. Right.
And people talk and talk and talk and talk, and they think that, remember the when you ask for donations and
Mm-hmm.
the donuts.
Right.
Oh my gosh, I remember I posted uh, the flyer you
Mm-hmm.
sent me, and in some groups,
Uh-huh.
and somebody saying, "Oh, how she asked for money, or how she is looking for help. If she have money, she have money for she go in the boat, she go in the restaurant, she go this, she go that. Why she ask for help for her son? I was not asking. You know, my son has a
Yeah.
father that he loves him, and me too. We can do everything for Matthew, but other kids
Right.
can't. Other parents can't, and you sometimes homeschool don't cover everything, and we were looking to help you,
And that's, I think,
and
so people don't understand that
yeah,
a lot of the private schools are asking for scholarship money and then family contribution. Whereas, because this is a homeschool co op, I've tried to make it financially viable with only the scholarship money to not create an additional out of pocket burden for the parents. But that money only goes so far. And, you know, to cover the summer months, the scholarship sometimes does not pay very quickly. Sometimes it can take 2 or 3 months before we get paid. So that's why we had done fundraisers to just try to like give us that extra edge. And on top of that, we do have kids that don't come here year round, so they're not on the scholarship, but they do come over the summer, which we're very tiny. Like, I have 7 kids total. So, to make that work with rent and electricity
I was
and
going to ask you that. You know, homeschool is supposed to you go to the child house and you teach them, but you have the great idea to rent a house and make a space for the kids, make everything. So you're renting this. You have to pay the rent, electricity, water, everything. How you
we have
cover that?
Mr. Robbie. Mr.
Yeah,
Robbie,
the
gets paid.
therapies,
Like, there's
exactly.
payroll taxes, there's
Yeah,
there's a lot of different expenses that go into it.
yeah.
So it's not, I'm not a nonprofit, but it's definitely not making a profit. So that's
I was trying to do my foundation too,
uh-huh.
uh, to help you too, but a lot of things like I don't know. I
So
don't know how to
so
help.
people don't really
I'm so
understand.
frustrated with a lot of things right now that people don't understand. People don't believe. People think that you are asking for help for you, and it's not for you.
Right.
It's for others. And but I just want to tell you, you are an angel for me. You are the best teacher ever I had for my kids, and I admire you. I love you so much, and I hope. I'm sure if something happens to me someday, you're going to take care of my son, and not as a teacher, as a father. He loves you. He asks for you every day, and I say thank you for all your help with my daughter too, with me too, because sometimes I'm calling you. Please, Miss Valera, what can I do with this?
Yeah.
um, I had two persons here that I'm sure that they love my kids. It's you and Josie.
Oh.
And I think just if Matthew is that good right now, it's because of you.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. And the videos you made, remember the videos you made for Matthew
Oh, on
when he
YouTube.
refused to go to school, when he refused to take to brush teeth or haircut or whatever. Wow. You have to do something with that videos.
Yeah, I have to figure that out because the
Yes.
social skills that you know, the children were learning from a video.
Yes.
And that's because they were imitating the most negative things from YouTube.
Yeah.
So I tried to make cartoons that look like the ones they were imitating, but with positive behaviors and social stories about how to behave in different situations. So we were able to go to the movies because I made a video explaining to Matthew exactly how he needed to behave in a movie theater.
And the card, remember?
Yeah, and how to, you know, how to get
Not
there,
those
and
cool.
and what he can do in the car instead of tantruming, and what, you know, putting on his seatbelt, and, you know,
I say
just
goodbye to my mom.
saying goodbye and brushing his teeth at night. And I think there's there's how to behave in a theme park.
Time to sleep.
What,
Yeah, they
Yeah.
wake up. In the
And when a baby
morning.
cries, because that was a
Yeah.
huge issue. So
Don't touch anybody.
yeah, don't touch people.
Yeah.
Don't hit
Oh my God.
people.
You can't believe. Oh, that was incredible. How the videos help Matthew. How you talk with Matthew and he pay attention to you and listen everything and follow your directions and everything. It's amazing, and that's why I say you are the best teacher ever.
Don't make me cry.
Cry.
I mean, I hope
We shared a lot of time, so we only. Oh yeah, you need to cry with me.
Oh no. I mean, I cry a lot, but it's definitely a journey. You know, it's definitely a journey, and I'm so glad that my life has taken me to the point where I can do this. You know,
You can.
and
That's why all the kids in the classroom in the public school, when I take on Matthew to homeschool, and you go to homeschool too, all the kids go go with us.
yeah, and I'm just very thankful that I've had this opportunity, and I hope that we can continue going for a while. This has been 3 years today, so of having our own location. So it's 7 years total since we started homeschooling.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
How fast? Oh
Yeah.
God, 7 years.
7 years. So it's amazing, and you know, the boys are all much taller than me now. So definitely there's been a journey and a lot of learning from both sides.
Yeah. We learn a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember one time I was trying to teach Matthew something, math or something else. And he was doing, and he was answering before you teach him.
Oh yeah.
And in the word, remember, when he's good, the applause, and when he's bad, ooh, and he was telling his friends to do it bad.
Yeah. Yeah. He yeah. He's
Sometimes I talk with the therapist my kids have in Arizona, and they can't believe it, how much Jesse changed.
Yeah.
And how I changed. They can't believe it.
No, it's I think the whole experience has transformed all of us.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I think my priorities definitely changed, even with the kids. When I first met them, it was very, okay, like, how far can we push them academically? I still like to push academically, but I know that the focus is now communication and making sure that they have the life skills to function in the community, you know, to make a list, to go to the grocery store, to know how to pay, to know where to find things, to be able to say, I don't feel good, or I need medicine. You know, those are all the things that they need to be able to function wherever they are, you know. So if they end up in a group home as they get older, okay, all right.
You know, one of my dreams were like make a big uh, home, school, sports, everything. One space that have everything. That doctors, um, classrooms, or art, or manualidades, ¿cómo se dice? Music, electricity, whatever. All the sports, no? Meditation, uh, maybe apartments for parents that they don't have money. Um, Everything that for the autistic kids, if they like music, they are going to learn music. If they like this, they are going to different things. And one classroom maybe to teach how we can live in this world.
And I hear that a lot from parents. Everybody wants to start a school. Everybody wants to start something. And I think that's good in terms of starting programs. But I also think we have to be careful not to end up back institutionalizing kids by creating places where only kids of a certain type can go. So it's very like an inclusive school
inclusive.
where everybody can go, a community center, like where everybody's included, and raising awareness and acceptance of kids with different disabilities is very important because we have a lot in our community that needs to become more accessible so that our students can enjoy it.
I mean, I want to do something. The biggest space, school or institution, but to teach them different things.
And there's
the
different programs.
Prepare them for the future.
Yeah,
Not
there's
only in math or reading or this or that, different things, and focusing what they like.
right, and there's different places right now that do that within the community. And I think we have to get the word out of where those places are, because I think that's the
But
catch.
they cost a lot of money.
And they cost
That's
a
the
lot of
problem.
money.
I want to do so. If I be millionaire, I put a school at no cost.
Right. Me too.
No cost. Because it's too much.
Yeah.
We have a lot of things to deal with. And think about how much I have to pay for this. It's too much.
Yeah. And that's still the barrier, you know.
Well, and someday I will like you have your own school. We have to do something. Yeah. How we can help you, Miss Barbara?
I mean, I like that we have a small community, but I think definitely we have the technology now to spread out and raise more awareness online, and use the technology. Like I want to do more through the videos. I want to do more through Zoom, live Zoom lessons for kids on the spectrum. I want to do more for helping nonverbal kids use their assistive technology devices. Matthew can make messages on an iPad very quickly, and people say, oh, but he can talk. Yes, he can talk, but he has a really hard time.
He talk what he wants.
Right, putting his words together.
Yeah.
You know, so when he sees the visual on the iPad and he can make the sentence first, he does it so fast, and then he can make his sentence and he can get his message out there. So I think there just needs to be so much more education, but it's not just of the children. It's the education of the community in terms of
The parents.
and the parents and, you know, other teachers and other professionals of, like, let's not limit these kids. Let's find the right tools and put them in their hands and get them to show us what they know. But we can't wait for them to figure out our language to do that. We have to give them the tools, and we have to provide them the tools and teach them how to use those tools. And a big part of teaching them how to use it is we need to learn how to use it too. So that's, I think, where I want to go next in my journey is spreading the word online, and trying to see if we can get more kids to have the right tools to open up their potential.
Yeah. One question: what do you think about the? Sometimes people say, "Oh, you why you put a T-shirt that say I'm autistic and this and that," to Matthew, no?
Mm-hmm.
I understand some parents maybe don't want the society knows that their kids are autistic or something. I don't care. My kids are autistic. My son, he can answer a question. He talk what when he wants. So if one day he's lost or something, I had a bracelet for him with his name, phone number of us, the allergic and autistic emergency bracelet, and the T-shirts that say I'm autistic, help me, or if you saw me having trouble, I'm autistic, and the messages. What do you think about it?
I think in Matthew's case, it can be very helpful because, he's not going to explain that on his own. And when he goes out into public and people are interacting with him without knowing, if they're expecting a response and they're not going to get one, his shirt basically tells people, like, this is why you're not getting a response. And really to raise awareness and acceptance in the world that, yes, people with autism exist. They're everywhere. They are everywhere. So just because somebody's behaving differently than you doesn't mean that you give them a different label. They're not crazy or, not necessarily someone to be afraid of. So, I think it raises awareness of autism doesn't have a look. You can't look autistic. But it does have certain communication barriers. And unless people understand that and start understanding, oh, okay, this child, he has autism, I'm not expecting a response. I'm not going to crowd his personal space. Like, I'm not going to approach him with loud noises. So the label comes with strategies, that society is already starting to become more aware of. There could be sensory issues, there could be eye contact issues, there could be communication issues. So now that I know that this label applies to this person, I have a better idea of how to approach him. And I think society does label people, whether we like it or not. And having something that helps people realize, like, okay, wait, I know this much about autism. I know, and a lot of people might not know a lot, but they might know that, oh, I'm not going to expect eye contact. I'm not going to expect an answer. And this person might have sensory issues, but that's enough to make or break a situation, where you're like, okay, well, let me approach slowly.
Yeah. Do you think it's will be possible in the future someday do conference in the schools, high schools, universities, educating people about autism? Because everybody say, April 2nd, autism 1 month, but it's not only one day.
No, it's not one
It's
day.
for life.
It's every day.
Yeah, it's every day. So I think people don't know anything about autism.
I mean, I
How
think it's
important.
improved.
Yeah.
You know, I think because there are so many children now being diagnosed that,
Children and adults
and adults,
that were
yes,
not diagnosis.
right. So I think it's definitely improved that people are becoming more knowledgeable about autism, but we still have a long way to go.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for
Thank you.
accepting me make this video. Congratulations for the anniversary
Thank
today.
you.
3 years in this space, and to let me record the kids and how you work and how great they are doing. I meet them, some of them, when they were kids like
Yeah, they
Matthew,
were tiny.
and now there's a lot of difference. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for showing up very quickly. I was like, oh, today's our 3rd anniversary, and you're like, I'm on my way.
We have a lot of histories. How many years we did?
Yeah.
2014 to, wow,
Yeah, 10 years
10
at
years.
least, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because he
Okay,
was in
so
kindergarten when I met him.
yes. When he bite you.
Yeah. Back here.
Well, thank you so much. This is the first interview to Miss Bowler. But we are going to do more videos like this to help people and do something else. Educate and looking for support for us, for the teacher, for the school to grow up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.